Good morning, guys. Laura here from Hedgehog's Homestead. I just thought I'd come up today and I wanted to start a new series. I wanted to start a series about, and I'm just popping up today. I wanted to see who. Good morning. Hi, Brooks Land and Green Granny and Ada Near. How you guys all doing this morning? I wanted to come up after AZ and see what kind of audience was in the morning, but I also wanted to start a new series about just sharing your testimony. What is your testimony, or what is your story in life? And I wanted to, hello cards. I wanted to just be a place where we could come and just share our lives with one another and our stories, so that when we have a channel, people can know us a little more, also know the good and the hard and the, just all the stuff and give some glory to God about where our life is. Hi, Elle, my fives. If you guys would like to share your link during this chat today, feel free to put love, just type love into the chat and it will share your link. So I wanted to start, and of course, if I'm going to ask people to do this, I have to start with my own testimony. Here we go. I have been raised in a church most of my life. I didn't have, raised in a very strict Christian home. Well, not too strict. My dad and mom were pretty good. But one of the things that, just growing up in a Dutch Christian Reformed church, which was very kind of legalistic. And so our view on life was you do A, B, C, and D. Good morning, Chef. And good morning, Al. You do A, B, C, and D, and that gets you to Christ. And very legalistic. And my dad, we grew up in Oregon. My parents were immigrants. I grew up in Oregon mostly. I was born in Canada. My parents moved to Canada straight after the war. They were from Holland, and so we grew up kind of very poor. Came from nothing in Holland to establishing a good life in Oregon or in Canada, and then we decided to move down to Oregon, and didn't grow up with a lot, but always had lots of love in the home. And so I'm sorry, I wasn't very prepared for this. Hi, everybody. Hi, Sheena. Please feel free to drop love in the link, the word love, and it will share your channel out. Please feel free to connect with each other and share your channels so that everybody can get to know each other. I would love that. And later on, I probably will put the link in the chat if people want to come up and share a little bit about themselves as well. So we came to the United States when I was 9 years old. And so we came here because of freedom in healthcare, freedom in a lot of things. We had free healthcare in Canada, but it didn't pay for a lot of things. I had an epileptic brother that needed certain surgeries and stuff like that, and he couldn't get it in Canada. They denied him. And so if you can't do that, you'd have to pay out of pocket. It wasn't like having insurance in the United States, and where you had insurance and you paid a little bit, or you made payment plans. It was, you paid the whole kit and caboodle if they deny you in Canada, and that's still happening today. And so that now happens in America as well. So one of the things that was kind of really interesting is that so we moved here from the United States, and so we had to start all over. So um, it wasn't like other immigrants that came to the United States; they could get on assistance right away. When you come from Canada or England, or a state that or a country that's doing really well, it's not a third class country or anything like that. Hi, Josh. Good morning. You have to get a sponsor. You have to promise not to get state assistance for 7 years. Um, and you cannot do anything, you know, especially if you're from Canada. If you do anything wrong, you're shipped back to Canada. There's quite a few people that have been shipped back to Canada for, breaking a law or anything like that. It's not like coming from any other country. Hello, Idaho Garden Girl. Good to see you in here. So my mom and dad went to work. They worked really, really hard. We bought a house in Southeast Portland. Spent a lot of our life there, growing up there. Hello, Tuber Chat. Good to see you. And we just having time and spending a lot of time of our lives in Portland. We played a lot of sports. My dad in Canada played semi-pro hockey and semi-pro soccer. So he started coaching. My mom became nurse's aide, and she started working in a children's hospital. From that children's hospital, there was kids that were being sent to foster care. And my mom and dad started doing foster care. I was the youngest child, and I now wasn't the youngest child. And it wasn't the greatest for me. They didn't ask me if the family wanted to do foster care. My parents weren't those kind of parents. They just were going to do this. This is a good thing to do. And it was. So my parents took on a lot of kids that were born addicted to heroin and crack cocaine. And that was the drug of choice in Portland at the time. There was also a lot of kids that were being born with severe handicaps and problems from marijuana back then. There was some weird strains of marijuana that going around, and kids were being born malformed. And it was a very, very interesting time. So we got some very interesting kids from a young age. I'm probably 13 years old at this time. And we're starting, I'm seeing these kids go through withdrawals as an infant. So that's just one of the things that I was exposed to at a very young age. So I never desired to do drugs, never desired to do any of that kind of thing. At around the same time, we started going to a different kind of church. We left the Dutch Christian Reformed Church, and we started going to a church that was more about the Holy Spirit. It was called the Vineyard Christian Church, a non-denominational church. And that's where I really fell in love with the Lord. And I really started learning a lot about the Lord and the Holy Spirit and all that it had to offer. And so it was just a really neat time for our family. I started having relationships outside of just family, a lot of good friends. But I struggled when I was around 13 years old with not being the youngest anymore, not being the center of attention. Um, all of a sudden there was new babies in my home, or and they took up a lot of time because they were up at night. They were, they needed 24-hour care. They came on heart monitors. They had a lot of medical needs, and then after they, and then my parents after that adopted about four children, and then I was no longer the youngest. I was now the middle child. And during that time, be, before we really started getting involved in the Vineyard Church, when I was younger, in middle school, I started struggling with not being the youngest anymore, so I started doing some attention-seeking behavior. And some of that was I just didn't eat a lot. I started I started doing things to make my parents notice, and they didn't. So, and I wasn't getting a lot of my parents' attention, and so I started doing things in middle school that would seek attention from other boys and seek attention. And what happened out of seeking that attention, I ended up in a bad place, and I was molested. And so it was something that I never talked about. It was something that was very horrible. And my father at the time would always say things, "Hey, Courtney," like that was your fault. That was, people that put themselves out there and that are sexually, or that seek attention from men and boys, are asking for that behavior. So I never told my family. So I walked around with that for a while, and that person who did that later on did a couple other really bad things to me. Before he molested me, I was playing volleyball in middle school. I played a lot of sports. He was this same guy was in the bathroom, and he slapped me across the face so hard it left a red hand mark on my face. And he got, back then you didn't get kicked out of school, you just got in a little bit of trouble. And so hold on a second, please. Sorry, my husband says hello. So anyways, so, and then this boy haunted me for a while. He would do some weird things, and I never told anybody. I just kind of shoved it under the carpet and moved on, because in my head, I had done something to deserve this boy doing this to me. And it's amazing how the brain, treats you. It does this horrible thing to you. And so I didn't feel like I deserved a lot. I kind of, and I think that's where I later on went into a relationship that I didn't, I guess, I felt like anyways, long story short, I need to get back. So later on, I fall in love with the Lord. I'm going to church every Sunday, but this is still hanging out back here, I'm now a teenager and going to youth group regularly and having a good time and traveling and doing all this stuff. I start working at McDonald's. I'm going to college. Meanwhile, I'm dyslexic this whole time, and so been told all my life that I didn't have to accomplish much. I just needed to get through life, basically. And so that's what I did. When I was playing guitar, if I didn't accomplish something in school, the message that I got from my parents is, it's okay, you're dyslexic, we understand you're not accomplishing certain things. So I didn't rise up. I didn't rise up to any kind of standard because there was no standard set for me. And so it was a sad thing that there was no standard set for me, you know. So what happened to me is that I just kind of made it through life. I got a scholarship and took early childhood education classes. I was still accomplishing things, but it was all because of I was in this program for school, and I took early childhood education classes. But at that time, when they didn't have all these standard sets to help people with dyslexia either. So I went to college and I didn't accomplish anything because there was no rules set in college, like if they need certain help with tests or they need, you know, I knew all my material and all my stuff that I needed to learn. But when I sat down and did a written test, I would fail because of the wording of the test, and I needed more time. It wasn't that I couldn't do the stuff. It wasn't that I didn't know the stuff. And so there was a lot of stuff that, and of course, you know, nobody helped and said, okay, well, we need to stand up for this and, you know, help you get this. And people didn't do that back then. It was like, oh, it's okay, you're dyslexic, you know, it's, oh, well, you know. So I didn't accomplish any of my goals that I did in college. And it was just crazy. It was a crazy time. So what happened is my parents were so focused on the foster children. They moved to a bigger home, or a home that was actually small, but it was on 1.5 acres in the middle of Portland. And feel free to drop your link anytime by just putting love in the, just type in love and it will drop your link. And if you guys want to get to know each other. So I was working at McDonald's, and my parents decided, you know, I'm working and I'm involved in my own life and just getting through life and doing all this stuff. Meanwhile, I had met my future husband at church, and he was 7 years older than me. And I was 17 at the time that I met him, so I was pretty young and impressionable. And going to church and doing all that stuff. And the thing is that here I am, I'm in church, and I meet this guy, and my parents decide to move. So they move to this new home, and this new home only has like 3 bedrooms. And so they have all these foster kids, and they decide that there's no room for me in the foster home. And so in the new home, and I was engaged to get married to this man after I turned 18. And so I'm 18 now, and I'm like, well, what they told me, they didn't even tell me that there was no room for me. They just said, you're staying here at the house, and the old house, and my sister moved in. So it was me and my sister living together, and nobody's communicating to me. And because I'm busy working, they're all having conversations with each other, but they're not communicating to me. And I'm supposed to be paying rent, but I don't know that. So my parents are like, oh, well, we'll pay her rent for her. And nobody communicated to me that I'm supposed to be paying rent. So I'm like, okay. So I'm living with my sister, and I'm like, okay, I'm supposed to be paying rent. Okay, how am I supposed to do that? I don't make enough money to pay rent. I started working at a new job at Myron Frank, which didn't made a whole dollar more than working at McDonald's. I sold fine jewelry at Myron Frank, and I wasn't making enough to pay $400 rent plus a $300 car payment, which I was making. And so the thing about that is I'm doing that, and I'm feeling all this pressure from me, and the only thing I have is this man. Well, I'm in love with this man. He's great and all of this stuff, but I'm overlooking a lot of red flags. He had a history of heroin addiction. He was saved by grace, and was in the church and a musician. And so, it's all, oh, he's a musician. Oh, he's this and he's that, and all this stuff. So a year and a half later, we get married. And 4 months after we're married, I start popping out kids. My kids are about 13 to 11 months apart. I have 3 kids in a row, beautiful children. Love them so much. And my husband is in the church leading worship. We're having a good old time. I'm thinking love is great, and family is great, and I'm having lots of kids. We're struggling financially because I'm not working anymore at Myron Frank because I have too many darn kids. And it's lovely and great. Well, all of a sudden, there seems to be some struggles. My husband and I, we go to another church, and that church, he is the head worship leader. And there's some struggles with him being respected by the other people that are there in the team that he's leading. And he starts to slip back into his old ways. And he starts by drinking. And he just starts really drinking like crazy. And he starts to spend more time away from me and the kids, spending a lot of time in the garage, just drinking. I'm not even realizing how much he's drinking. But he's separating his life from me, and I'm not spending hardly any time. He starts at this time going, spending a lot of time at other people's houses, and I don't know it. He's at that time later on, about a year after he starts drinking, he starts doing heroin again. I don't know the signs of heroin other than, he was pretty good at hiding it from me. And he was in and out of work, and it started out with us not having enough to do anything with the kids. And he would buy new guitars and new things to make himself, be this great worship leader. Meanwhile, he was doing this other stuff. And so I start to notice that it's becoming a problem. And I say to my pastor at the time, it's becoming a problem. My husband's drinking too much, and I don't really think he should be leading worship. I spoke to my husband about it. I don't think you should be leading worship. You're doing this thing, and you're drinking too much. I don't know that he's doing heroin, but this is all happening, and he's getting laid off from a lot of jobs, and just laid off a lot more than usual. He worked construction, doing drywall. And even though a lot of people that are in this town get laid off, but not as much as him, because he's starting to fail tests. And so he he's going through all this stuff, and my pastor doesn't believe me, because my husband tells him that I'm just oversensitive, and he's drinking maybe a couple of beers when he gets home, and yes, it's a daily thing, but it's not a big deal. So we go back, and he is drinking obviously becomes more of a big deal than anybody realizes. And I start having panic attacks, and because nobody's believing me. Nobody's believing me that he is actually as bad as he is. And unfortunately, it becomes worse and worse and worse. And I hang in there until my kids are preteens, and they start saying some things to me. My husband, after a while, he has a massive aneurysm. My oldest is 13 when he has this massive aneurysm, and it's in the frontal lobe of his brain, and he comes home handicapped, almost dying. So now I am the breadwinner. And when I become the breadwinner, I notice some things that we almost lost everything. Almost lost everything you can imagine. But our church steps in, and there was, I applied for assistance. We were living on food stamps. The kids were getting all that they needed. My husband applies for SSI. And during that time, there was people in the church, and they were giving us $1,200 a month. And because they were giving us $1,200 a month cash every month, we survived. We not only survived. Now, mind you, I was doing all the books. I was handling all the bank accounts. I was handling everything. We could pay for things now, things that weren't getting paid for before, things that, my kids were never able to do things. And now they could do things like gymnastics and sports and all of this stuff. And not only that, we made it a way to pay off our bills, and we bought a home. And all of a sudden, I noticed that my husband was still drinking. He never stopped drinking. And he had a credit card. I paid off all the credit cards, but his went from being paid off to the balance were full all the time. And so we started struggling a little bit financially again. And he would go and get pay loans after he got his Social Security check. He would get pay loans from those paycheck places. And so money was coming out of the account that I didn't know. And so it started hurting us financially again. And he started getting mean, really mean. And I started noticing that at that time that he was using heroin. He wasn't drinking anymore, and things were kind of changing, and he was using heroin. And we started having people come over in the middle of the night and delivering things to him, and just crazy stuff like that. And he started getting really mean to the kids. And when he wasn't up all the time cleaning the house all the time, he was sleeping all the time in between. And so things just got really scary and really hairy and just complicated. And one day he started throwing things at me. And I was like, okay, he's throwing things at me and putting holes in the walls. And, he's a man that's, he's certainly handicapped, but he certainly is strong at the same time. And what I mean by handicapped is that he um, only had one arm that he couldn't do much with, but the other arm was plenty strong. Um, he was yelling at me one day, and my 13-year-old son stepped in between us. He was almost 14 at the time. And he took his fist and hit my 13-year-old son as hard as he could with his fist, like he would hit an older man. And that was it. That was it. I had seen abuse. I wasn't recognizing it for what it was. We separated and got divorced. And when we separated, my kids started telling me all these stories about what Dad was doing when I was gone. And he was watching pornography in front of the children, and he was doing all these crazy, horrible things. And just absolutely horrible. And it was sad. It was horribly sad. And so I moved to Portland and moved in with my mom. And I divorced my husband. It took a couple of years, but I divorced him because he was so physically, when he wasn't drinking and when he wasn't doing that stuff, a lot of people didn't realize that he had actually gained a lot back. But because he was drinking, it was showing he was slurring and stuff when he would drink, and people didn't recognize it because they thought, oh, that was just the way he talks now because he had that aneurysm. But when he wasn't drinking, he was talking fine and he was coherent and all of that stuff. So it had masked a lot of what he was doing and how well he was actually after that. And so a firefighter told me, a firefighter that was actually a chaplain at the time, I'm so glad you got out of there, because when people start throwing things at you that are being verbally abusive, watch out, because that is the sign that that is one of the first signs that they're going to get so abusive that they will kill you. And I was like, no. And he goes, well, let me tell you a couple stories. And so he's like, you need to follow through with this divorce and go all the way, because just because he's handicapped, it doesn't mean that he can't kill you. And that is the next step that he would do to you. And if he's abusing the children, and the stories that my kids told me, I won't share those stories because those are their stories. But let's just say I should have divorced my husband 7 years before he had his aneurysm. Absolutely horrific. I was married 17 years to him. I held in I held on probably 12 years longer than I did. Yeah, thank God I got away. Thank you. So I got away from that relationship, and I raised my children, and I raised them in the church, and I put a lot of family around them. 2 years before my husband had his aneurysm, my father had an aneurysm and died. So I didn't have a father figure in their lives. So I made sure that they were around church and around, a lot of good men, because I wanted them to have a good father figure in their lives. And, but I didn't want to bring anybody into a relationship with me that could hurt them again. And so I waited until my kids were adults. And they were all out of the house. My kids were all out of the house when I met my husband, Chris. I met him on a dating website. Hi, how are you doing? Go ahead and put love in the link, or, in the chat, and it will share your channels out. Please get to know each other. So I met my husband, and I shared my whole story with him. I shared everything with him. I had met my husband, and we got to know each other. It was a pretty quick, wild romance. He was a Christian. He was raising his own son. He had come from an abusive relationship as well. And his wife didn't do drugs, but she was very abusive verbally. And they had lost a daughter together. And she was just a very abusive person. And so we kind of understood each other that way. We got married pretty quickly. Got married in Vegas. Just really fell in love with each other and really supported each other and got to know each other pretty quickly. Right as we were engaged, before we got married, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And it was a mild breast cancer, but for some reason that triggered PTSD in me. It triggered everything from my past, from my childhood, from the early on rape in my childhood. And so I went to therapy, and I was diagnosed with PTSD. And that can happen to you. You could get something that's not as traumatic, but it was traumatic to me. And it didn't help that my cousin had gone through breast cancer, and she was diagnosed with breast cancer and lost a breast right before I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And then that triggered fear in me, and I started I started fearing my husband a little bit, and it interfered in a very wonderful, loving relationship. So I went to therapy, and that helped out a lot. And so I was very happy and very in love, and I am very in love with my husband. But it hindered. So get therapy if you're going through that. But I'm saved by grace, and everybody has a story. And I have a husband that loves my children. I have a husband that was very supportive and helped me through my breast cancer now. But it wasn't, it was through grace. I learned that I was okay, that I was saved by grace, and God was with me that whole time. I caught my breast cancer so early, it was considered a 0 on the scale. But they moved out a big portion of my breasts, and they caught it early. And then a year after my breast cancer was caught, my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer. And so it runs in the family. So I am watched very closely, and it's so amazing that it was a blessing. Yes, I had breast cancer, but it was so caught so early that now I am watched, and I won't get in that position that my cousin was, where she lost a whole breast and a lot of the muscle around that breast, and it could never be fixed, So anyways, that is my story. I am so thankful to God for all the blessings that I have, that my kids were brought out of that situation and are now living pretty decent, healthy lives and happy lives. Um, and I love them so much. And if I didn't have that time to heal and have that time with God, where I was in church and I could get away and just heal, I wouldn't have found another good relationship. I would have married the same kind of man that I married the first time. And I am just so thankful and so grateful. And so I want to do this every Thursday. After AZ comes up, I want to just have a testimony Thursday. I'm so thankful that God's in my life, and I'm so thankful that I get to share Him with you guys and share my testimony, my story. Feel free to put love in the chat, and it will share your link, guys. And anyways, that's who I am. That's what has made me who I am today. And so I was married 17 years the first time, and I have been married 4 years now to my new husband. And we have moved up here. We moved from Oregon to Tennessee. We bought a home in Oregon. We sold that home recently, moved to Tennessee, and now we're working really hard to start our new homestead here. And the amazing thing about my relationship with my new husband, we have the same goals and dreams and all of that. We are at the same place, and that didn't seem to be the same thing with my ex-husband. We were never on the same track at the same time. And with my husband, it seems like he's speaking the same thing to me at the same time. And so I'm just so thankful that I'm in a relationship where we sorry, where we have that together. So if anybody else wants to come up and share their story, or if you guys want to share some of your story or share about your channel, I'm going to put the link in the chat, and I would love to have anybody up here. You have to show your face so I know who you are. If I don't know your channel, I might not let you up because I do have to see your face. But if you've been around for a little bit, if you start sharing anything that is not of the values of this channel, I will have to ask you to step down. But I would just love to share you guys out. Please put love if you want to share your link. If nobody wants to come up, that's fine. But I just thought I'd share the link for a few minutes. I'm probably not going to be up here much longer. I want to make these a lot shorter lives, but I just wanted to share that with you guys. So here we go. Let's share this link. If I can get it to work today. Okay, there it goes. So anybody can come up. Klingon Princess, or anybody that wants to share their story or share about their channel even. Queenie or anybody else. I would love to meet Klingon Princess and learn more about her channel. Our treasured home, I'd love to hear your testimony if you have one. Anybody else? Shadow Scott, I would love to learn more about you and your channel. Please feel free to come up and join us. It's been a lovely day, and I've started the one reason why I got to get some chores done today. So I'm not staying up that long. Plus my husband called and I need to call him back. we are got a lot of stuff going on. We're building a house on 160 acres, and that would be great. Please feel free to email me if you do want to share your testimony. I would really love to do this every week, starting at 11 o'clock every Thursday, and just having a place where people can come and share their story, or share their channel, and just having, a nice place where we can share about who we are, and why, maybe why we can just support each other, not only support each other's channels, but we can support each other in who we are as well. And I would love to hear about people's stories. I'm probably going to send some emails out to people and invite them to come up. I won't always have it open like this where everybody can come up, but because I want people to be able to share their story and who they are, and share God's grace. Hi, Chicken. How you doing? Good to see you. Please put love in the chat and share your channel out. This is a place where you can do that. Or if you want to come up, I can share the link to to StreamYard, and you can come up and share about your channel. Okay. Shadow would love to come up and share about his channel. That would be great. Shadow's got a great prepping channel, and he's from Sweden. So it's nice to see what's going on in other countries as well. Sweden is a great country. They treat their people well, but things are going crazy there too. I don't know if you guys have noticed that the other day I was in Walmart, and shelves are starting to look a little thin again. It has been a little bit on the crazy side again, and there we go. I'm sharing the link again. Yeah, I was in the store the other day, and there's Shadow. I was in the store the other day, and I noticed that we're having bare shelves again. I don't know. What are you noticing?
Well, it's some holes in our shelves here too. So
yeah,
and the prices is sky high. Basically, they've gone up a lot. And if you're gonna buy some can of with grinded cinnamon, 210 grams, their cost before around 34 crowns. Now it costs 75.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow.
And the coffee has gone up with about 40%.
Yeah, here too.
On 1 year.
Yeah. I'm amazed. I'll get like 10 items, and I'm walking out of the grocery store, 10 just everyday items, and I'm walking out of the grocery store, and it's $70. And I'm like, wow. It's crazy. Cheese has gone up crazy here.
Meat has gone up.
And if you look in our like freezer section, this happened during the pandemic, when the beginning, the freezer section foods are really low, and they're really low again. I've noticed that. And then you go, the meat section is very, very thin again. And so meat prices are starting to skyrocket. Chicken is really expensive. Beef is just skyrocketed. It's horrible, and everybody is struggling. The gas pump has come down a little bit here. I don't know, has it come down there at all in Sweden?
Well, the prices is high here as well. Oh, I don't know what the price on gas is here now, but it is probably 25, 26 crowns, something around there.
Mm-hmm.
And I read earlier today that gas prices are going up again.
Mm-hmm.
So that is,
Yeah, because the barrels have gone up in price.
yeah,
Um, uh, One of the things that we noticed here that gas prices are never going to be what they were. They've
no,
gone up and they're up to stay, and they may go down a little bit, but they're never going to be what they were. Hi. Noticed here that gas prices are never going to be what they
there
were.
we go.
She's got to close her other window.
Yeah, and she needs to
It's
mute the
fine.
YouTube side.
Hi.
Hey,
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing good today. I'm alive.
Good. That's great.
Yeah,
It's
that's
good
good.
to be alive. So, yep. So we're all alive, enjoying ourselves. So how is all of this stuff affecting you guys? In your daily lives, because it certainly affects us. We're trying to build a home, and we locked in our price of the actual home build, but it doesn't mean that all the contractors. We're living in an area of the United States, Clarksville, Tennessee, and in that area, um, home prices are skyrocketing. It is the number one growing uh, city in the United States. And so our home build is an hour outside of that city. And it's really rural. And so to get a contractor to come out to that area is spendy. And so we are struggling. Even though the cost of lumber has come down, um, the contractors want it's they're out there and they're like, let's just name any price, because they have to, come out an hour away from what's going on in the city when they've got jobs jobs galore in the city. So they don't need to come out to our place. So they can ask any price they want almost. So that's how crazy it is for us right now.
Mm-mm-mm.
So yeah. So that's how it's affecting us. We can afford our food, we can afford our gas, but every dime counts right now. Every dime counts when we got this house build going on too.
Yes,
So
it is.
yeah.
Even
Yeah,
here. Go ahead.
yeah, and you have we are not in the fall yet, and we
No.
are not in the winter yet. And I think that will get worse in the fall and
Yeah.
winter
Yeah.
months. That will be tough.
And I'm not on my land where I can grow my own food. Well, I am growing like vegetables and things, but I'm not growing my own meat and my own like if we were on our land, we'd have chickens, we'd have the eggs, we'd have that sustainability. That's why we came out here to buy that land to make our lives more sustainable. Um, so yeah, so that's where we're at with that.
Oh yeah, even here. Now my son and daughter-in-law both work, but they still paycheck to paycheck,
Yeah,
and I have my disability, but you know they pay either way. Rent bills would have to be paid, and I'm still left with $20 a month,
yeah,
and that's just the way it is. And I'm caught with a catch-22. I mean, when I was got disability, they didn't put it as permanent. I forgot how they labeled it, but I'm permanent disabled, but that's not how they labeled it because
they still check you like every 7 years or so.
my years because I could lose my weight and go back to work or whatever. Well, you can't fix degenerative disc disease,
Yeah.
especially from the top of your head down to the butt bone and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, that's what I'm in the process of do I need surgery, or are the shots going to work, or what's going to happen, because that disc between L4 and L5 is so much on those nerves that nothing helps. No relief, no pain medicine. And of course, I can't take any narcotics because I'm allergic to them all.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
I have some on my channel about things that have happened to me,
Mm-hmm.
um, older videos. But yeah, if you want me to share my testimony, I'll be more than glad to share it
Okay.
and
Well,
everything.
let's do that next Thursday at 11. Can you do
Sure,
that then? Okay.
sure.
So we'll
But
share it.
oh
That
yeah,
would be great.
so I put on the grocery list. They keep asking why is the same things, because I'm like, well, because I feel like we need it. Yeah, it's not winter time yet, but growing up, we kept hearing the old tales. If you have a harsh summer, you're going to have a bad winter.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been hot and
Yeah.
dry, and my son goes, well, that's because they're putting stuff up in the air. They've always been putting stuff up in space.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, my grandmother was always right on the nose.
Yeah.
The woolly worms, if you saw them with whatever, be prepared. When the squirrels, you see them gathering stuff, get
Mm-hmm.
prepared. And that's just like, so I've been canning and stuff as much as possible. And then with my back, the way it just seemed like when I went to the ER in May, it just went down faster.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was because I already knew what my back was, and just hearing it
Mm-hmm.
made me feel like that way. But yeah,
Okay.
it's hitting us too.
Well, why don't I have you guys share your channels? Shadow Scout, what is your channel all about? Let's hear about that.
My channel is about prepping, survivalism, because prepping and survivalism go hand in
Mm-hmm.
hand.
Mm-hmm.
It's it, they do basically the same thing, but they have it's a different philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on where in the world you are. Let's
Mm-hmm.
say in US, it's a different from a survivalist here, because in the survivalist, basically in US, are a guy who focus more on guns and ammo and things like that, rather than food and water. And prepper in US focus more
You
on
can
food,
walk,
water,
honey.
medicine, and things like that. Well, of course, they were prepper in US focus on, have some focus on guns too, but not that much as survivalist in US. So there
Thank
you
you.
have clear line between
Mm-hmm.
those two.
Okay.
So
I think it's great. I love to go to other countries and see how they're preparing because this is the first time I think that
How's it going,
um,
baby?
we have all been dealing with the same kind of things at the same time. Food shortages, you usually hear about, oh, it happens here, it happens there, and now we're all dealing with it at the same time. And I believe that's by design, not by coincidence. Um, you know, so.
Oh, definitely. That's definitely by design.
Mhm.
You know,
So,
go ahead.
our treasured home. What is your channel about? What do you make your videos about?
Okay, my channel started out because Anastasia has a dairy allergy.
Hmm.
She was born with it. She cannot have any regular dairy whatsoever. And so that's what I started about, because I would have people ask me, well, how do you still make like lasagna and spaghetti and, you know, mac and cheese without having regular cheese? So we started doing that. And then right before then, I had gotten bit by a tick in 2017, and
Uh
I
huh.
didn't realize that eating, ground beef and pork and everything was making my hands, just really, really bad. It was worse. It wasn't eczema. So
Mhm.
it took me years to, you know, they would get better, then they get worse, and then 2 years ago they just got really bad. I had to put my hands in an ace bandage and wrap them up so
Mhm.
they would heal because they were split right
Oh
here,
wow.
split through there. And I was like, oh Lord, please, I don't want to lose my fingers. So August of last year, it's just like he spoke to me because there's your issue. Because we had
Mhm.
hamburger one night and then roast the next, and it's like I wonder if that's what it was. And it's just like he was standing in the kitchen telling me, "That's your issue. Stop eating it." And
Mhm.
what it is it's called alpha gal, and it's from a tick bite, and it makes you have a food allergy to cows, pigs, deer, buffalo. I can't have any of it. So learning to fix meals with chicken and fish and turkey, and I was like, oh boy, I've got a lot of things ahead of me. So it's not only a food about food and lunch and different things to eat. We do other things and have fun. So I was gardening, but I
Mhm.
didn't garden this year. My back just would not let me do it. There was no way.
Wow.
Tried, and I was like, and then I was waiting for the bag soil to go on sale, and it never did. But I was like, I think the Lord was just saying, no, I'm not letting you do that this year. I just couldn't. I couldn't bend over to do anything because if I bend over where my leg, where your leg
Mhm.
and your groin meet, it
Mhm.
catches, and like I'm froze, can't move.
Mhm. Right.
So I didn't garden this year. So I do canning. I did a video about canning corn cob jelly.
Mhm. Nice.
Um, and then I've done that's the first canning video. I haven't done any other canning video, but I would like to get into that. I've done that weird food challenge. From That was fun. Now I think I got more views on that than anything else.
Yeah.
So
What was the weird food challenge that you did?
um, I can't remember it now. Oh, hold on. It was like cannelli beans, peanut butter, I think peaches or something like that. And actually, it tastes pretty good.
Oh, you put it together.
Yeah, I put it together.
Oh, okay.
So there's a video with that on there. So here lately, the last couple of weeks, I haven't put out that many videos because it's just
Mhm.
like I hurt.
Yeah.
And on I've had fibromyalgia since 2003,
Mhm.
but I think I had that in my teen years
Yeah.
because I just can't take the heat.
Right.
So Nancy, do you have to watch your B12 level? Not anyone meat. Christy, um, that I don't know. However, I
Probably should.
went to my primary care physician a couple of days ago, and I've lost another pound, so I've lost about 35 pounds altogether. So, woohoo! I'm happy about that. My heart's fine. My lung, he goes, everything sounds fine. My blood pressure's fine. Well, he'll did put an order in for blood work, so I'm going to see. I do know my D level is always down.
Mhm.
So that's something I think that's always been.
Mhm.
So, you know, I think sometimes I feel like my channel is this way and that way. But I
Yeah.
like doing so many things and sharing so many things that it's just a genre of, I can't just be just a food channel. I can't be just a prepping channel. I can't
Yeah.
be just other things. I like sharing everything.
Right.
So I
I
was go ahead.
I'm definitely a homesteading channel, but it's hard
Yeah.
to take me as a homesteading channel. Other than I make bread and prepare a lot of my own stuff, and I have to cook from scratch for my own personal. because I can't eat a lot of salt because I react really poorly to salt in my diet. My blood pressure shoots through the roof. Um, so I can't eat pre-prepared foods, which makes it really hard to prep. So, but I have to prep my own foods that are reduced in salt, so I can survive during a prep. You know, so that's my latest thing is learning how to do that. I'm freezing like I make a big batch of my food for myself now, and I freeze half of it because then I have it. You know, like the rest of the family will make something, I can't eat it because
Yeah.
it's just the way it is. Um, so it's just the way it goes. So
Yeah. Learn to eat, just chicken, turkey, fish. And I'm not a big fish eater. I do like salmon, which is canned salmon, but as
mhm.
far as fish,
Yeah.
I
See,
just
I
can't.
I can't I can't pick a canned chicken or tuna or anything off the shelf because it's got so much sodium in it.
Yeah.
Um, I have to keep my sodium under 1,000 milligrams a day. If I eat even up to 1,000 milligrams a day, my blood pressure goes through the roof, and I end up in the ER. So um,
Yeah.
it's not no joke. So
Exactly. Because I understand because my son and daughter, now they can eat everything.
mhm,
Even, they peppers and tomatoes and everything. I have to make all mine separately
right.
because I found out eating tomatoes and peppers and eggplant stuff I like, and any kind of peppers flares up inflammation. So if I can
Mhm.
keep the inflammation down to a level that's bearable, I do better. Well, especially with my fibromyalgia, that just that
Yeah.
it was you when you already have that and your body aches already on top of the desk. It's just like you
Mhm.
just want to stay in bed all day.
Yeah.
But I was like, I've got things I like to do, and I like to crochet. So, like I said, I'm not just all one thing because I show crochet, I do cross stitch.
Mhm. Yep.
Oh,
Okay. Well, so we'll see you next
next Thursday.
Thursday. Yeah. And we'll share your testimony. And then if anybody else wants to share their testimony or just share their channel, we'll make a special day for that and give you about an hour to share whatever you want to share. Um,
And
um,
storms and
and I would love to hear that. So let's let's do that every Thursday at 11, and I'll go ahead and send that up, and I'll make a special thumbnail just for your live.
okay.
And we'll see you next Thursday, and we'll see you all next Thursday, and I'm on at Wednesday nights too. So you guys have a great and wonderful day. God bless. Thank you, Shadow, for coming up here and sharing a little bit about your channel.
You're very
And
welcome.
when is your next live, Shadow?
Saturday, 8 p.m. Swedish time.
Swedish time. Okay, so look for Shadow on Saturdays. He has a great channel. It's a great place to meet other channels from other countries. Um, we just love Shadow. He's such a great guy, and he tolerates Bob. So if you know Bob, you know what I'm talking about. So, anyways, we'll see you guys next time. God
Great
bless you
seeing
guys
everybody.
all, and have a great and wonderful day.
Take
Bye.
care.
Everybody have a
Stay
great
safe.
day.